Well, now that I'm back from my from getting sippies, num 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 num. Let's continue where we had left off after getting some music going. We're gonna go over to the track "Adventure Begins." By the way, the music, as you'll find on the channel. Is this flickering for any of you? Do you see this flicker? What's going on with that? Yeah, what the heck? Sorry if that's. I don't know why that's happening. My system is not being taxed at all. So anyway, the music on the channel is, thank you, Erin, is most of the time provided by Tabletop Audio, whom I do sponsor on Patreon. I use his work in as background for the roleplay sessions presented and for our workshops, and I believe it's only fair that while it's a great resource that's freely available for you all, because I do use it in, if you want to call this a professional capacity, that he gets consistent uh, you know monetary thanks and recognition for the work that goes into his pieces. Yes, so Wizard Brandon, that piece is called Russian Winter, which is also at tabletopaudio.com, no space. Also not sponsored, although Tabletop Audio, what are you doing? Come on. You're leaving money on the table. Uh, I suppose in that sense too, Kobold Press, what are you doing? You're leaving money on the. This is, by the way, this is not sponsored. While this is a, this was a freely provided review copy, for me to read and to go over here. I am under no compulsion to give something a glowing review or to use words or phrases in some inner circle. I don't know. Have you ever seen that phenomenon where you have a bunch of reviewers of something and they all say the same phrase regarding, you know, regarding something? You're like, there's no way. Well, there's really no way that is a coincidence, as I suppose it could always be a coincidence. But I am under no compulsions. This was a restriction free email that had the code for me to get this copy, and I am giving it as neutral and a straightforward read through. Um, I'm not bringing in any personal feelings. I'm definitely not bringing in politics or anything, because look, as a recipient of the collateral damage, and if any of you are out there like, didn't he already say that? Well, we have 31 people watching. Some of them might not have been here at first. With stores like the store here and so many others, falling prey to the collateral damage caused by culture war issues and wars of personality online, and a whole lot of real life stuff being drug into our stories of fantasy and escapism. Um, I let's judge the work for what it is. I don't know any of these people. I certainly don't know them personally. There are things that I've heard, just I guess in passing, because it's partly my business to be aware of this. But um, even so, I'm separating art from artist. So, for example, I don't know Bryan. Bryan Camp sounds familiar. Do any of you know what his body of work is? It sounds like a familiar name to me. So, if anything, maybe I appear foolish, because for all I know, most of you out there are going, Bryan Camp, of course. He's the guy who does The Thing. Come on. Like, oh, the guy who does The Thing, of course. I knew The Thing, and I knew there's a guy who did The Thing. I just didn't, pineapple pen them together and say, oh, that was Bryan or Gail or Jenny or whoever, right? Yeah, not sponsored, but it would be a lot cooler if it was. Acknowledging winky face. All right. What is hi Rip Artist, welcome. Oh, he was the guy who did the thing, Brandon. Okay, gotcha. All right, let's go into this next part here. So far, I've been very amenable to what has been said. So while no one asked me, I can provide independent third-party verification that I do like the sentiment that both authors have put out so far. And I can already, I mean, just on the title alone, I'm already feeling agreeable to failure is always an option. Using failure to drive roleplay and character growth. I could probably just stop right there because absolutely, in fact, we were just talking about that earlier with that being roleplay opportunities, right? Rolling a 1 is a roleplay opportunity. I could just stop this section right here and say, Bryan, you're good. Let's move on. But you know what? It looks like if he's providing a case study and some other things here, let's find out what Bryan has to say, get some words of wisdom that many of us might find agreeable. And I'll tell you what, if any of you out there don't, here's a dirty secret on this channel. You're allowed to disagree here. Whoa, what? Yes, I promise. You're allowed to disagree on something. And it's fine. Because it shows that there's room for understanding and growth in understanding, right? So, let's roll up our short sleeves here. And we're going to... Man, do any of you know where a veterinarian is? Because, man, these pythons are sick. Meanwhile, I actually have I have the droopy Popeye cartoon, boom, my biceps actually just kind of go down. But let's roll up our sleeves and find out about failure. Let your players be good at things. Well, I could also just stop right there too. This is a ubiquitous truism among TTRPG game masters. While it is in fact good advice, it can be difficult for inexperienced GMs to see the difference between presenting a challenge to their players' abilities, which feel good to overcome, and stripping away those same abilities to turn a mundane task into a challenge, which feels limiting and sometimes like an unearned punishment. The narrative benefits of failure. One of the joys of TTRPG's tabletop role-playing games is getting to inhabit the life and wield the abilities of a once-in-a-generation expert or paragon of physicality, when in truth, most of us are merely average folks just trying to make it to the next game night. You should get to revel in the powers and talents your characters possess. You should get to be exceptional. Yes. Escapism in my storytelling session? Get Bryan. You're on thin ice, mister. Real life needs to be drug kicking and screaming into every session. What are you talking about? That is sarcasm, by the way, everyone. Problems can arise, though, when this generally useful advice becomes the foundation of a table's mindset, when the idea that characters should be allowed to be good at things stagnates into the belief that characters should always be good at things. My pacing was off in that sentence. That they should not, in essence, fail. There are game mechanics challenges that arise from insisting upon success, but more importantly, it can also become an impediment to good role-playing. So much so that it is worthwhile to examine the flip side of the being good at things coin if you're looking for a way to improve the role playing elements of your TTRPG experiences. As role players, it is through success that we conclude an aspect of the plot, but it's in failure that we enrich the story. Now, that emphasis on story being different from plot, is to many of us it's synonymous, is important. There is a plot point, and a lot may hinge on that plot point. By the way, I'm not reading. This is me commentating on. I want to make sure I'm also providing transformative commentary on what I'm presenting, because I do want to, I do want to respect things here. Plus, it's great for conversation. A point is just that. It is a point. A lot can hinge on that point, but it is still a point and not the entire story. And if we read a story about someone who always wins, it's a little boring. Those characters are generally called Mary Sues, and there's no real threat. There's no stakes. A lot of you might have heard stakes. What's at stake? If everything is safe, no one really gets hurt, no one's allowed to die, no one's allowed to, whatever, then okay, well, is bumper bowling really bowling? I'll let that out, I'll put that out there and let you all mull that over. It could be. Some of you might say, of course bumper bowling is bowling. It's still a good consideration. Anyway, and so while it's human, and probably elf and dwarf, nature to always desire success over failure, as an experiment, try this out. Let your characters be bad at things. Don't just accept failure, embrace it. Seek it out. It's there that you'll find your way to your character's unique identity. But wait, didn't you just say that the joy of TTRPGs is in rising above our mediocrity? Don't we play these games to be heroes? Heroes don't fail, they win, right? Yes, and yes, but we must not mistake the destination for the journey. Accomplishing your goals does not make you a hero, it merely makes you successful. True heroes don't just succeed, they succeed after striving through adversity, by falling again and again and always getting back up. True heroism is not being free of flaws, but in succeeding despite them. And so, if we want to find the heroes of our TTRPG stories, we must go searching for their flaws. What do we say when we build characters in D&D on the channel, in the workshop? We are all flawed creatures. That's why I love the background system and it including flaws, which every DM and a GM or ST in other systems should use their equivalents as well. Flaws aren't just a weak point to attack your character and to cause failure, mechanical failure, or try to, sabotage the sessions that you all go to on a weekly basis. It is the area of growth for your character to achieve, to get stronger there so you're not as vulnerable, or to provide just those really compelling moments. Because otherwise, if everyone always hits, everyone always wins, everyone always seduces, everyone always finds the hidden door, everyone always blah, 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 blah. I mean, I hope you're having fun, because different tables have different definitions of it, but if everything is guaranteed to be successful, then, again, where are the stakes? Like, why are we excited over this? It's important to note that we're not talking about the sorts of flaws that you admit to in a job interview, where you describe something that is an overall strength as a weakness. If your flaw is along the lines of, I'm a perfectionist, I can't leave a job unfinished, or I'm almost too eager to learn new things, then you're not really grasping the concept. Nor am I suggesting an optimizer's version of embracing failure, where you dump the stats or skills or features that you plan for your character to use the least. What we're talking about is not the sort of thing you do once when you're conceptualizing your character and then avoid for the rest of the time you roleplay them. Oh, I'm not even gonna bother rolling for this because my character's so bad at it. Waiting until you have an opportunity to succeed is not the same thing as embracing the potential for failure. Instead, try focusing on those moments that, as players, we instinctively tend to try to leave behind. Now, it doesn't mean you always have to do the thing you're bad at doing, but it's good to challenge yourself to do that, to step up. Yep, Brandon, I do like the background system in 5th edition. I get what they're changing for the 5.5 edition coming out soonish, question mark. But I really like the personality, the one or two personality traits, ideal bond, and especially the flaws. That's a good way to put the concept of a flaw in front of someone. And there are other systems like in VTM where you can buy flaws. Flaws are a mechanical thing in that game. But in D&D, there's not really a mechanical benefit to a flaw. It's a flaw. It's a mar in your character's behavior. And a diligent DM will kindle that flaw throughout the story, here and there, to either spice things up or to challenge that character to grow further and to push through the flaws and limitations. But I'll tell you what, let's take a look at a case study. Pardon. Let's consider a specific example. One of the characters I've played the longest is a very observant, very intuitive character, and I try to lean into that whenever I can. He's also a living machine in a world where most sentient beings are made of flesh, which said to me at the point of creating the character that logically, he would be inclined to misunderstand some things that a breathing creature would simply know. I didn't decide he'd be bad at intuition, rather that he would intuit very confidently and very incorrectly some aspects of non-machine life interactions. At one point early on in our adventures, he saw a human give another human a single coin at the end of a very brief interaction, a gesture that any human observer recognizes as giving a tip, with all the social and economic baggage associated with it. Later, in an interaction between my machine person and a human, I attempted to observe some detail about our interaction, and since we were early enough in our adventures that failing at this kind of attempt was still possible for the character, the math did not work out in my favor. I did not discern the lie or catch the code word or whatever momentary goal I was trying to achieve. I failed. But I didn't let that be the end of it. I didn't say, I failed my check, somebody cast a truth spell. Instead, I embraced the moment and thought, well, what mistake would he make here? And my mind went back to the tip when I had my character reach into his pocket and pull out a silver coin. I honestly couldn't tell you if that interaction was with an antagonist that we ended up fighting, or if it was some benign lore dump with a trusted ally, or if we ever saw that NPC again. What matters is not the dice roll that I failed, nor the goal that we eventually accomplished. What matters is that I took that moment of failure and, by embracing it as a moment for my character, turned it into a trait that followed him for literal years of gameplay. He gave silver coins to queens and monsters and orphans in the street, almost never appropriately to either station or social situation, and held out his hand in expectation at times as well. It wasn't a huge thing, a quirk mostly, but it helped me understand the character. It was a piece of him that helped me return to his voice and mannerisms and beliefs and fears whenever it was time to return to that table. Then, recently, after a tense standoff with a long term antagonist, my character turned to leave and, dismissively, dropped a single copper piece. It's one of my favorite little moments from role playing that character, and it grew out of embracing a moment where I failed when I should have succeeded. A balance that binds the game together. While good role playing can be found in embracing failure, it's important to pursue a balanced approach, not a complete abandonment of the goals your character might strive toward. You should make an honest appraisal of your character's weaknesses and flaws. And now, in our channel, in our workshop, we do that with our SWOT report. SWOT, SWOT. That stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's most often found in business, but I'm sure you could find SWOT reports in other regards too. Strengths and opportunities being internal to the organization, the business, or the person. Opportunities and threats being external considerations to the business or other entity. Anticipate the ways in which they might fail and use those moments as opportunities for enrichment. You shouldn't actively try to cause things to go poorly just to watch things crumble. There's a difference between working to build a sandcastle even though the tide is coming in, and kicking over the sandcastle someone else built just to see how they react. Now, what about failure for GMs? Welcome back, Hero Dragon. I missed a comment, by the way, by Wizard Brandon. It's like pineapple on pizza. Bumper bowling is a valid option because people are allowed to enjoy something in a way they want to. The no true Scotsman fallacy has an issue with that. Failure for GMs. Embracing failure is a method of improving role-playing, and narrative isn't just for players. It's a philosophy that can benefit a GM's ability to embody their own characters and also heighten their overall storytelling prowess. For some GMs, since our characters are either allies or antagonists to the focus of our story, our character's relationship to failure falls into one of two categories. Either the character is comic relief, fails often, fails publicly, and fails hard, or they're a serious character, whether an actually useful ally or genuine threat, and thus are largely impervious to failure. That makes sense to an extent. As a player, you wouldn't want to find out that the wise mage you were told could answer all your questions turned out to be a fraud. Nor would you want to discover, after defeating the powerful and manipulative enemy that you've struggled against the whole campaign, that they actually had an inherently flawed evil plan that never would have worked, even if you'd done nothing. These aren't the sort of GM character failures we're talking about. However, the old adage, everyone is the hero of their own narrative, is relevant. Your antagonists and allies should also be defined by their struggles against opposing forces. Your archetypal characters, wise old mages, clever crime bosses, discerning investigators, evil overlords, and so on, don't need to be failures. They just need to experience failure. Nor does it have to happen at the hands of your players, or even in front of them. Give them setbacks, give them thwarted ambitions, give them moments of loss that still haunt them. Consider the ways in which your archetypal ally or villain has failed in their journey to where they are when the players meet them. And you will find that they have become less of an archetype and more of a unique character. To paraphrase a line from Tolstoy, quote, "Every powerful mage rose to power in the same way, comma, but their failures along the way were their own," end quote. Now, what about the opportunities behind locked doors? Looking beyond a GM's characters, it can also benefit the overall culture of the table if the GM embraces failure as a philosophy. Allow your characters to fail forward rather than backward. And by the way, Call of Cthulhu encouraged this, especially when you have a game centered around investigating. If a single clue, especially if there's a single clue that is really vital, needs to be found, make sure that even in failure, it can be found. It might just cost other resources. Could be time, could be hit points, could be, the money that the characters have or something else. You're not handing them a victory, but you are having them fail forward. Otherwise, if in Call of Cthulhu, they missed the secret panel in the back of the closet that contained the skull that would ultimately defeat the boss, who's undefeatable otherwise, then either as soon as they pass that closet and maybe there's no going back or they never think to, you might as well end the game there and say, why are we even playing this game? Or you can find a way to, circle them back, or the skull ends up in their hands, but a rival found it, and it cost them time or resources or something else. I do like failing forward, absolutely. You can still offer a hard no or other just impenetrable barriers to not doing a thing. But I believe having that general philosophy or consideration or patience of failing forward can perpetuate your story, make it intriguing, and cause that growth in the characters. I also forgot to highlight where I left off again. Yay! Okay. Looking beyond a GM's characters, it can also benefit the overall culture of the table if the GM embraces failure as a philosophy. Allow your characters to fail forward rather than backward. Frustrations over something that seemed to quote-unquote go wrong in a game tend to stem from a moment where an interaction or encounter was reduced to a success/failure binary. As an example, let's take a staple of TTRPG obstacles, the locked door. Dun dun dun. Generally speaking, this is the simplest of interactions in a game. You've got a pathway forward, you've got an impediment to that path, you've got a character who is sneaky and good at getting past locks. They roll and get to be good at something. Success-based thinking says that if they fail at this, well, too bad. Sometimes locks are beyond your talents. Sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes you're just unlucky. Accept your bad dice roll and move on. That's perfectly fine sometimes. Sometimes we just fail. But we must acknowledge that this is not the sort of failure that allows our player the opportunity for role-playing. It's not a defeat, it's merely a denial of success. Nor does it actually keep the players from achieving their goal. The strong character can bash the door. The magic character can magic it open. The clever character can trick a guard into giving them the key. So if the bad roll to unlock the door won't do anything for the lock-picking character, and it won't actually stop the group from moving forward, why not let it be a more interesting forward-moving sort of failure? Rather than simply failing to unlock the door, make it take longer than usual. So long, in fact, that the guard patrol is now just around the corner. Or they manage to bypass the lock, but not the silent alarm that now gives the group a ticking clock that didn't exist before. Don't make failure stop progress, make it drive narrative. Ultimately, this concept is the same for players and GMs alike. Let your characters be good at things, but pay attention to those moments when they're not, and then make those moments matter. That's where you'll find the experiences that make a character unique. I like that essay, and I do agree. I do find myself in general agreement here. It's how do I want to put this? It's all right. My yawning isn't because I'm tired. It's warm in the room, and with my first workshop of the new year, I've been doing a lot of talking. I think it's more a lack of oxygen right now. Oh yes, I was going to say, some systems, many of these are talking more about D&D. Pathfinder is a parallel as well. In Vampire the Masquerade, in the storyteller system that it uses, along with Hunter the Reckoning and Werewolf the Apocalypse, there is a succeed at a cost option that is a rule. You don't have to play with every rule in a book, and that is if the character is willing to pay a price that the storyteller inflicts, then there is a success, just with a complication. In hey Cruxy Raid, in Alien RPG, there is a similar system where the panic is a mechanical table of things, or conversely, by getting greater successes, because in Alien RPG it's more of a minimal rule system. More successes means more efficiency. Not that you have to artificially make everything take an hour and then logarithmically like scale down to, well, it's either an hour if you get one success, it's 10 minutes, and if you get two successes, you do it in a second. But it does have a way to reward greater successes as well as, well, failing like panicking and such. Because in that system, if you roll, it's a commitment. You don't roll for every little thing. If you make a roll and you fail that roll, you fail the task. It's not just a neutral, well, it didn't manifest, it didn't happen. If you roll those dice, there is an inherent risk. You either succeed or you fail. However, that failing forward is a baked-in style of that system as well. Cruxy, how have you been, my friend? I saw you have a little bit of a name rebranding going on. This is what I like about the skill points in Pathfinder, says Wizard Brandon. Even if you roll bad, you can still get good results because you have it trained. You have trained it. Delport Brecklin says your skills, knowledge, and talents are represented by your sheet. The dice roll has nothing to do with them. It represents how well chance and the world align with your character's plans. And welcome back, Belladonna. Delport says Han Solo failed to sneak up on the stormtroopers on Endor, but then led them into an Ewok ambush. Stealth failure, breaking and entering success. What is failing forward? Yep, Goblin of Gygaxanor. Absolutely, the show must go on. Yep. All right, now what about this rock and roll? ROLE. How karaoke? Karaoke. Empty orchestra. If you speak Nihongo. How karaoke can make you a better role player. This is by Erin Roberts. Again, yell at me if I should be familiar with Erin Roberts, but I am not. So if any of you have context for this contributor, please let me know. Remember, I didn't read this beforehand, so it's not like I'm coming at you with, here's a mini essay on each of these authors. I can't remember the very first time I roleplayed at a TTRPG table. Remember, tabletop role-playing game. But I expect that it went something like this. My hands were sweaty. Vomit on the sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That wasn't it. My hands were sweaty. My mouth was dry. And I felt like everyone was staring at me, waiting for me to fall flat on my face. Exactly like my first time singing karaoke. On the one hand, role-playing and karaoke don't seem to have too much in common. One is an opportunity to tell a collaborative story, and the other is generally a performance in front of a crowd. And yet there are commonalities. Both can give you a sense of community. Both are done in front of an audience, even if it's only your friends, and both can be absolutely terrifying. Luckily, I've been to karaoke more times than I can count, and I've picked up a few techniques in front of the microphone that work equally well when rolling dice. Whether or not you ever decide to take the stage, I hope these tips help you out as you roleplay your heart out around the gaming table. Remember that everyone wants you to succeed. One of the most important things to remember when you begin role-playing is this. The other people at your table, or even in your audience, want to have a good time as much as you want them to. Just as it is more fun for the patrons of karaoke, for the patrons of a karaoke spot when the person at the microphone is rocking out, it's more fun for your fellow players if your role-playing goes smoothly. That means they'll generally be cheering you on, often in very tangible and noticeable ways. Even in your earliest attempts, you'll find people giving you the benefit of the doubt during awkward moments, rooting for you to triumph over any small missteps, and encouraging you when things are going well. So as you begin to implement some of the pieces of advice below, start with this one. Take a deep breath and do your best. We're all here for you. I like that because for newcomers, there might be those feelings of everything has to be perfect. Or if they come in from a podcast or a show like Critical Role or others that are out there. What are some other popular ones? Dimension 20. Wolf Queen Belladonna talked about one a while ago. It was called Dark and Dicey, I think. You all might have others, right? But if you have a production, that is not a standard to which most people will be held. Which is also why, if you put together your own rough cut, home movie, you can be forgiven for not having perfect lighting or shots. But why there is criticism for not having perfect lighting or shots if you are making a production, being a professional, or at least trying to be a professional. Well, there we go. So Belladonna, I pay attention. For any of you out there, if you're new here, hi, welcome, and thank you for lurking. But if you're around long enough, I do pay attention to the things that you say or that you bring up. And as best as I can, I try and remember it, right? So we can talk about it. You all teach me things every broadcast. I love it. You open my eyes to topics and subject matter and resources or references, and it's just fun learning about people too. 2, get excited for the good parts. One tangible way to bring genuine enthusiasm and fun to your table is to remember what you love about the characters you're role playing. Just as getting to the chorus of a popular song might be the part that carries you through the verses, anticipating the fun parts of the role playing experience that are around the corner can help you stay excited even during scenes that you don't feel comfortable with or are less naturally excited about. So remember to feel the love. You can start by coming up with a sentence or two that captures the character's general vibe as you might describe them to someone else. What gets you the most jazzed up or feels the most relatable? Is it their attitude towards life, the unique background they bring to the table, the terrible secret they're hiding from everyone around them? Ultimately, what's important in this exercise is what matters to you. 3 different people might find the same character intriguing for different reasons, like 3 different performers bringing their own unique takes to the same song. Once you know what excites you about the character, keep it in front of your mind, even if it isn't immediately relevant. You can even jot down what you're looking forward to somewhere on your character sheet or prep documents. That's a big thing too. Again, especially for newcomers. Um, yeah, I mean, we can touch on. I'm not a like some Mercer effect. Like I get pouty about it. But it is the unreasonable take that your game will ever be Critical Role because no other game except Critical Role can be Critical Role. And there's even changes and improvements and other things between their campaigns, right? So love your character in your game and your mistakes. Well, we could even go back and incorporate the things that we've learned so far about embracing the failure, about playing charisma. Some of what Ginny here talked about is manifesting in these other essays, right? What about these feelings of shame or just opening up, right? Trying something, having that welcoming nature. You know, hey, we're all humans or close enough at this table. We make mistakes. It's fine. You're trying to give a speech to the king, and for the first time, you stand up because you're in character and you want to, you know, you bolstered it. You've been practicing your accent, even though you haven't been talking with your accent through your character so far. You stand up, King. We return to you when, in this dark hour. But we have glad tidings to you, sire, and that is, and the player, not the character. Though you could translate it in character, the player, after sitting up and so boldly, for the first time, one slips out. And then there's quiet at the table. But instead of sending away that friend or family member in shame, maybe you lean into it. You have fun with it, or you realize that everyone at that table has also either farted or is holding it in and is waiting for an opportunity to, maybe in a more controlled environment or a more discreet one, to also do human functions, right? Anyway. Feel the love. You can start by coming up with a sentence or two that I did it again. I keep talking about it. The unique background they bring to the table, the terrible secret, there's that. It was about keeping notes in front of you. Just because you don't see other players at your local table or players in podcasts or on Twitch keep notes, if you want to keep notes because they help you, keep notes. It's fine. Your part of the table can be different than other people's parts of the table. You can even jot down what you're looking forward to somewhere on your character sheet or prep documents. This can help you keep it in mind if you're switching back and forth between NPCs or find that you lose touch with the characters you're role playing as you get into the heart of the session. As a bonus, if you're a player in a game with a GM who's okay with it, let them know about the aspects of your character that you want a chance to lean into. They may be able to create situations that really let you shine. And that is another good point, too. Talk to your DM, GM, ST. You're not breaking some oath of, like a vow of silence by asking for a consideration. Like, you know what? I made a burglar style character, and all we've done is a hex crawl adventure in the middle of a desert without even ruins to infiltrate. I mean, hopefully, Mr. or Miss DM GMST, that, I'd like to participate more in some way. Can I work with you on that? It doesn't make you greedy. It doesn't mean that you want to run the show or ruin the show. And you're not breaking some rule by talking outside of your character about in-character things. These are games of communication. 3, give yourself an easy win. A market's offerings are rarely provided without the presence of vendors. One of the first questions asked of anyone who sings karaoke is, what's your go-to song? Often, this isn't the most complicated song out there. Instead, it's one that the singer enjoys, can pull off well, and is popular enough to make other people sing along. The role-playing version of this is go-to character traits. Simple and clear elements of character, probably should be of the character, that help get you into the role-playing spirit. These should generally be easy to remember, work well in a variety of situations, and be low-key enough not to stop a session in its tracks, and should also absolutely avoid using stereotypes or mockery rooted in real-world people or identities. I get the gist of that statement, though I do believe people should have the freedom to express themselves, even if it's making a mistake in doing so, to learn from it. If they want to play a character a certain way, that they can, and you hope in the context of their table that it is fine, but I get the gist, but I think that taking things like that out of consideration is, I don't know. It doesn't, that itself doesn't seem right. Wielding them in a narrative, contextual fashion, I think, can be potent and powerful. So I guess, so far we're on page 29, and if I were to disagree with something, it wouldn't necessarily be the notion of, hey, don't be a fool. I was going to use a 3-letter word, but don't be a butt about things. But I get the intention. I just may not agree with the advice as implemented. Hey, Ketup, it's good to see you. Long time no see. I missed hopping in here. Just so bloody busy. I hope you're doing well. That's why I like the character arcs rules in Cypher that basically add a structured way for the player to inject some of their own story desires to the game. Nothing wrong with players and GMs working for a bit of meta stuff to work in the in-game content. I agree. The communication, and I'm glad that you brought up Cypher. I would like to play some Cypher this year. Especially, and hey, look, maybe it's because I'm in Ohio. I'm not in Appalachia, Ohio, but the Old Gods of Appalachia seems like a really fun game, and that might be a fun one to run, Kid Up. So I would have to disagree with the essayist here. Not with the intention of what was said, but in the control or the automatic taking away of something that could be used in a compelling way. Can it be abused? Absolutely. Can people play a complete mockery or sham of someone using an identity or a stereotype? Yes. But I think you can also do powerful and compelling things, not just with, but through that, if it's being advanced in some way. So this isn't me getting on some on some stump and blah blah blah. That's it. This book is literally no, it's nothing like that. I have that Canadian game with Treant Monk and the Dungeon Dudes next, but I wanted to do Old Gods of Appalachia after that. I'd love to have you in it for sure. Head up. Look, this is my year to growing up right now is not wise. This is 2024 coming after the ruins of 2023 for so many channels and streams and stores, especially. 2024 is my growing out. I really want to network with more people, whether as a detached voice, a talking head, or to show up for a game session or a couple if we can make it work. I would love to either run Old Gods for you and others, or to be at a table. I guess virtual, although I got a passport. Come on. I have a passport and I have not had a good, let alone poutine at all, in a long time. And I think we can solve this issue, Kid Up. Anyway, let's continue. A word, phrase, or speech pattern that the character often uses, like Yoda's habit of putting the object before the subject and verb. Speak, he does. A belief or area of interest that shapes the way a character views the world, like the Klingon habit of relating everything back to honor. A habit that the character often falls back on, or trait that they often express, like the tendency to flip a coin before every decision, or a fascination with the colors. The colors of others. There we go. I was about to mix it up. The colors of others' shoes. An article of clothing or accessory that makes you feel like you can more fully embody the character, like a superhero's costume or a signature look. Come to the Netherlands, get a capsulon? A capsulon? That sounds very sci-fi and interesting. Are you living in the future in the Netherlands? Maybe we can meet at the Dungeon Dude studio in Toronto someday. Hey, I'm Toronto. It's a drive around the lake, but that's fine. It's been a long time since I've seen Niagara Falls, but I know where to find it. I know where to find it, Ked Up. And it would be an honor to meet you again for the first time. Fries covered in meat, covered in salad, covered in sauce, covered in cheese. Wow, that's taking poutine and just just poop. It's going up there. Or at least it's like, well, come on, it's healthy. It has a vegetable on it. If the character is a regular, feel free to find a few of these. For one-off NPCs, try coming up with one or two that help you quickly get into the character's mindset. Ideally, these line up well with what excites you about each character, helping you to take their broader traits or goals and pair them with compelling attributes, quirks, and details. These are great to incorporate early in a session as you get into character, but can also be used to ground yourself at any time if you start to lose faith in the way that you are bringing a specific character to life. And I do like this, that there is more to a character than a quick an availability heuristic, which is a fancy way of saying like a stereotype or something like that. Um, so if you can think of something like something I'd love to learn to do. People who can roll coins along their knuckles, or twirl the pen. Uh, that would be neat. But yeah, little things like that. And in D&D and in others too, that there are many other systems that encourage this kind of not even deep, but just that one next step for even a quick NPC character. But even in Dungeons and Dragons, if you look in the DMG, and we've done this when we've made NPCs in our workshop, they have their own quirks and traits. The little thing that they do, they whistle or they pace, their mannerisms with others. So it is good to consider, and I absolutely do agree with the author with these other examples. One note of caution, any go-to song can become a lot if sung 7 times a night, so don't overdo it. Try making some of your go-tos broader ideas that you can adapt to different situations, or try creating a longer list so that you have some variety. The former can be very powerful. I remember being at a table with a player who gave their character a love of nature and flowers that impacted everything from the ways their spells looked to the foods they gravitated toward. Since each instance was a little different, it never felt overused. The most important thing, though, is to find the go-tos that work for you. Try them out, experiment, enjoy. I love the emphasis, the exclamation points. Please, yes. That sounds magical. Yeah, I know. Ketup, I've had one meal today, and I know I'm the type of guy who can miss a meal or two and not blow away in the wind. But man, Wizard Brandon, your sorcery is definitely lean into who you are and what you're trying to do. While it's important to be flexible when role-playing, it's also good to ground yourself in who you are and what your particular session calls for. In karaoke, I call this leaning into the singer and the song, learning both what works well for you and how to best take advantage of the mood of the moment. Leaning into the singer is all about knowing yourself as you start role-playing. You may find that you hit on something that you really enjoy doing. Maybe it's a specific voice quality or tone, a whispered snarl, or a high-pitched musical way of speaking. Maybe it's a specific type of language, gruffly giving orders or cheeky bantering your way into getting information. Generally, though, it should be something that transcends any specific character, the way that a singer's raspy voice might show up in many different songs. When you find something like this that works for you, remember it and look for places where it makes sense to use it from one character, session, or table to the next. If nothing else, it should make your role-playing experience more fun. To lean into the song, be aware of the feel of the role-playing moment that you are in. Much as a singer would change their vocal style when moving from an R&B slow jam to a Broadway ballad, you may want to change your role-playing approach from one campaign or session to the next, especially as you react and respond to the actions of other players. Are you in the middle of an epic fight scene? Your role-playing might be restricted to the way you make strategic decisions during the ebb and flow of battle. At a tavern getting information from a friendly local, your role-playing can be more in-depth and might draw from your character's history or past accomplishments. You may also want to think about the emotions of the scene that you're in. What song might be playing if a movie were made of this moment? A battle to avenge a fallen friend, for example, might have more stirring speeches than a standard clash. A local jester sharing information at the tavern might offer more quick-witted banter than a sullen barkeep. Often, tone can change as you gain information, make decisions, or switch locations. Being aware of it helps to keep your role-playing efforts in alignment with everyone else at your table. 5. Have fun. Yes. No fun allowed, also, at the same time. Not in this channel, not at my table. No jokes, no innuendo, no banter, no fun allowed. This is a performance. We are here to be as soulless a husk as possible and to just churn things. We are not human beings, we are human doings. And if you're not doing the thing and saying the thing, are you even trying? But yes, why don't we have some fun? While it is always fun to listen to someone belt out a Whitney Houston or Celine Dion track as if they were auditioning for the next spot on The Voice, most folks save their loudest and longest applause for the person who seems like they are having the most fun. Yes. Much in the way that yawning makes other people yawn and laughter is contagious, being passionate and committing to what you're doing tends to make people lean in and want to support you. Whether or not you give the same kind of polished performance as someone who does this for a living. The trick to generating that kind of passion, commitment, and enthusiasm? Enjoying yourself. While it may be easier said than done, if you can go with the moment as you roleplay and find enjoyment in it, you'll often carry folks with you no matter what is going on. The tools and ideas listed above can help your role-playing, but they are no substitute for trusting your gut and having a great time. And there you have it. Well, almost. My final tip as you take these techniques from the stage to this table is this. 6. Be the audience for everyone else that you would want for yourself. Be the person leaning in and hoping that your fellow players succeed. Enjoy the things that excite them. Celebrate their wins. Help them capture the mood. The best nights, whether in karaoke, in a karaoke spot or playing your favorite tabletop role-playing game, are the ones where everyone leaves having had a phenomenal time. Yes, that kind of mutual participation is valued, and that's also why people can get upset if. All right, so we're in the middle of a combat. I mean, I'm a fighter. I just swing my sword, so. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Roll dice. Roll dice. Oh, that sounded really cool. What you said there, Wizard. Good job. Oh, it's my turn again. Right. So if people aren't in a game of communication and mutual enjoyment and participation, if people are opting out of that, then feels bad, right? Now, I like this essay, not just because of what it says, but because the way it was delivered, especially as someone who's never done a lot of karaoke. It's clear that this was written with that kind of personal experience. And that type of experience wasn't for me. I really can't glom onto the examples. I definitely got the gist of what was being said for sure. And what I like about that is it not only is an opportunity for me to learn something about those who enjoy karaoke and apparently go to it often, but for those who aren't me, and there's everyone else in the world who's not me, this is a great way that outside of, general advice, which we all may still agree upon, this had a nice personal take to it that others who enjoy singing and karaoke can use to better transfer the data into their brains or find a relation to. So I did like this little essay piece as well. Hi, Bane. Happy early anniversary. Happy early anniversary? What do you mean, Bane? Unless you mean early because our next anniversary isn't until this coming January. Apparently, I missed some stuff here. Remember, you don't have to fall to doing tropes. Instead of having your party meet at a bar, you can do something new, something fresh. They can meet outside the bar. There we go, Bane. Wow, you sound like my work, says Naya Nizgani Anubis. Unfortunately, that I don't know when you said that, so I don't have context for that. Ketup says, if I just realized as of this year, as of June, I've officially been playing TTRPGs. Oh, that was the happy early anniversary. Okay. I'm sorry, Bane, that was your first comment I saw, not the one before. I thought you sprung onto the scene and like, hey, happy anniversary, and it was last month, but thank you. Oh, are you playing Candy Crush, Brandon? Oh yeah, if I get a player that's constantly like, oh, what are we doing again? Yeah, you got to have a talk about that. I have a player like that, but it's forgivable because of crappy time zones. Oh, is your player very sleepy and is like kind of dozing off, Brandon? Oh, right. All right, Bane. So about Ketup. All right. My party met up after a shipwreck on a beach. Yeah, it's good to have Daly back. It was going great until the paladin pointed a cannon at our bard rogue. Oh, the Candy Crush sounds when I was on my phone. Right. I don't think I've ever played Candy Crush. It's when you were talking about the no fun, no thought. We're here to churn stuff out. Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you for providing that, Naya Nizgani Anubis. You know what? So far, so good. If I'm shilling, I'm definitely not a paid shill. But so far, I think that this Kobold Guide to Role-Playing has been solid. It has good wisdom in there. Now, I'm long in the tooth. I've been doing this for a while. Even still, I'm not gonna. I haven't approached this with. They're just gonna, bunch of kids just telling me stuff I already know. Nothing like that. It's been great to read. Because just how I love to present myself here to you all, these authors themselves are providing that independent third-party verification for the things that I think, feel, practice, and even teach. This has been a very good guide so far. And, with its formatting, every essay is a couple pages. The topics have been pretty unique so far. And if there is any overlapping, it's great because there has been some referential, some things that we pick up can be seen in the other essays as well, even though it's not the focus. Now, as a retailer who, of course, carries Kobold Press books in the store, this is one that I'll be putting on the shelf as well for other hopeful role players to step up and enjoy. Is Kobold Press Kobold Sprig approved? I did get her permission to put her little dancing art there, and so I will give a shout out to Kobold Sprig. I believe she's still broadcasting right now. But I did get her permission for that because she is a TTRPG nerd as well, and as well as being a varietal streamer. And Kobold Press, Kobold Sprig, it works out, right? Since I don't have a Kobold mascot, Sprig is going to have to be kind of an unofficial part-time mascot of the channel. That's right. We're 41 minutes into Groundhog Day. Thank you for that, Heretic.